Welcome guys. We're going to be talking in this section about the Growcer layout. We're going to start with this first area, this room that I'm in right now. This is the seedling and germination area. So we're going to go through all the components. After we're done talking about this section, we're going to go back into the area in front of me. That's the main growing area. And after that, we'll go into details about how this system itself works. So we'll start here. This is obviously the entrance. We're coming in. We've got a hand sanitization area here. This is really important. We always want to make sure we clean our hands when we come inside the Growcer. Want to be working inside of a clean environment. We're going to have personal protection equipment such as gloves, hairnets, shoe covers, lab coats. Make sure all that's on before you touch any of the plants or any of the componentry. Over here we've got our junction box. This is where all the electric is handled. You don't have to worry about that. Over here in this corner, you can't see it. It's behind the door. This is called the Grow Link panel, and this is where all the computerized automation of the system happens. Again, you generally won't really have to worry about that too much. You're going to be focused mainly on the growing of the plants, the daily maintenance tasks, cleaning, things like that. So now we'll turn over here. So this is basically what you could call the heart of the system. This is where everything begins. This is called the main tank. This is where all the water for the system accumulates. You can see this lid here. This allows us to gain access into the main tank where the water is being held. So this is the drain line. This is really important for when we want to exchange the water in the main tank. There's a valve here. What we're going to do is connect our hose to this point here. We're going to unscrew this cap. Once the hose is connected, we're going to run it to the outside parking lot. We're going to open this valve and the water is slowly going to drain out. We'll go into more detail about that later. So again, back to this main tank here. Inside this tank are 3 pumps. 2 of these pumps are for servicing the growing area in front of me. The other pump is for controlling the nutrient sensors as well as the pH sensor. We'll get into more detail about that later. For now, just remember this is the main tank. It's where all the water flows from and back to. Over here we've got our nutrient tanks. There's 2 nutrient tanks and 1 pH tank. We'll go into detail about that later. This is our seedling and germination area. We've got 2 levels for growing out our seedlings. This is our seedling water tank here. So the water in here, the tank here, is completely independent of what's going on here. This tank has its own pump. This pump takes water from this tank and up to these 2 levels. Water flows up to these 2 levels and back down through gravity. This is the filtration system here. We're going to get into more detail about that later. Let's see, what else can I talk about? I think that's it in terms of the main components. We've also got some ceiling fans. We've got our AC and temperature control over there, as well as our air intake right there. So now we'll move back into the growing area. Here we are inside of the Growcer grow room area. Behind me is the door that we just came through. This leads back into the seedling germination area. Behind me, up high, down below, it's a lot of plumbing. Don't worry about that right now. We're going to go into detail about that later. For now, I just want you guys to focus on what's going on here. So these are the grow beds. As you can see, there's multiple levels of grow beds going on here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels of grow beds. We've got the same thing going on here. This is side A, this is side B. Both sides are complete mirrors of one another. Further down towards the end of the Growcer, we've got the same thing going on. Repeated. This is repeated twice. So essentially on side B, we've got this here. We've got it repeated a second time. We've got it repeated a third time. The same thing on side A. We've got 1 section, 2 sections, and 3 sections of grow beds, each with their own level of 5 grow beds.